There we go. Okay. So for posterity's sake, hi, I'm Ryan Daly, Vice President of Technology with PM Square. And today we're going to be looking at a framework manager to data module conversion utility that PM Square has developed. So I'm seeing in the chat a lot of people, a decent number of people have them in production. So for those of you who don't, would you mind sharing just a sentence or two about why? Have you just not found a use for it? Do you have concerns about the product? That sort of thing. I'm very interested in, for those who haven't taken a look at data modules or carried one through into production, what it is that's holding you back. So while we're waiting on that, let me go ahead and the lack of DMR need OLAP functionality. Yes, that's so yeah. So there's no native DMR or true OLAP in it. There's some OLAP-like functionality in data modules, but nothing that's 100% overlap with what you could do in DMRs. All right. So what I'm going to do here, let me just get my screen open. So I'm going to start the demonstration by sharing with you a data module that I have. So if you guys could just confirm you see a data module is what you're looking at. My computer seems to indicate that you are. So
yes.
All right. So what I'm going to start this off by doing is dismissing the welcome message, and I'm demonstrating this in 11.1.7 today. There we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to delete the contents of this data module. They're gone. Okay, we can all agree that I just blasted that out of existence. I'm going to go ahead and save it. This data module is called demo target. Okay, for some reason that switcher is a little bugged out here, but I saved this data module, so there's nothing in it. We can all agree on that. This is a totally empty data module with no content. So I feel like this is a magic trick when I'm demoing this. Like, I'm going to pull the rabbit out of the hat. But we all agree that's a blank data module. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use that as a target for the conversion utility that I'm about to run. So let's take a look at that conversion utility. Now, the way this functions, to give you some insight into it, is we actually developed kind of a scripting language that describes BI metadata models. So it contains information about tables, joins, filters, calculations, dimensionality, all of that sort of stuff. And then what we're able to do is we're able to do a conversion from Framework Manager into that scripting language, and then from that scripting language into a data module, and we do it automatically by running this software. So in order to kind of see how this works, it's very, it's kind of a developer tool. So it doesn't have a great user interface or anything like that. It's really designed to solve a specific problem, and building this really killer UI we felt was just kind of out of, it wasn't necessary to give you the core value of what you're going to see today. So I have here a sample Framework Manager model that we can look at. And just to kind of walk you through what's going on here, we have a number of tables. Now, this isn't a huge model, but it has a large number of features. So I wouldn't worry too much about the size of the model. It's really about what is contained in it that we're able to convert. So if I look at this model, what you're going to see is that I have, and actually let me just turn on something here that is going to make this easier to follow me. There we go. Okay, so it should be easier to follow my mouse now. So what you're going to see here is we have a database view, and the database view has a mixture of different types of objects. And we did this in order to kind of show that this utility is able to understand the kind of the classic Framework Manager structure, but it's also able to understand it if you haven't followed the classic framework manager structure. Deepu, we're getting some feedback from your end. If you wouldn't mind muting yourself, please. So here in the database layer, I've got these tables that are kind of your traditional tables in Framework Manager. But then I also have, for example, this retailer location table. And the retailer location table, if you look at the diagram, is actually going to be a combination of the tables in this folder, the retailer tables folder, okay? So what I have here is a query subject in the kind of database view, which classically you're not supposed to do, but of course you can, it'll work fine. And it is a combination of these items which are all joined together, okay? And then I also have a table here that is created from SQL. So this is a table in the database view, and it's a fairly simple SQL statement, but you know, it's not just a select star. It's got a number of joins in it. So, you know, we're grabbing this product information where product type code equals product type code, and the name lookup number, you know, where we have this, and where we join on these, and where the product language is English. So that's what's happening in the database view. And in the business view, again, I have a mixture of query subjects and shortcuts. And this is something that's very common. You know, when I'm working with customers, some customers in the business view will have only query subjects, and some will have only shortcuts, and some will have a mix. And so we have a mixture here of them. We do have also have a couple filter objects that you see here. And then we split this into two packages, package 6A and package 6B. So this features a lot of what you're going to do in Framework Manager models. It doesn't have everything, like what Paul was talking about in the chat. It does not have the, it doesn't have, well, I don't have parameter maps in here. I don't have a DMR in here. And that is because those features simply don't exist in data modules today. So there's nothing to map that to. There are things we can do to kind of help you get the same sort of functionality, but there's no easy button for getting that sort of functionality into a data module. For example, you know, in the a lot of the stuff you do with parameter maps, I think you can do with the query value, with the query value calculation type in data modules, but you know, it's not a one-to-one mapping. But this is like the 90% of what I see customers doing is kind of encapsulated in what you see here. The features that they regularly use, the bread and butter features that you regularly use in a framework manager package are included here, and they're split in between two packages. So we've got this model, two packages. Okay. And as you can see, it's not a horribly messy model, but it's not perfectly structured as far as where things are located. You know, if when you took your framework manager training course, however long ago it was, you know, they probably told you not to do some of the stuff that you see here, but I've gone ahead and did it. And it's to prove the point of how this works. And the way this really works is it's able to examine each query subject in the package and work its way itself back through the various layers to determine all of the things that might contribute to creating this query subject. And then it's able to evaluate that and collapse it down into a format that makes sense in a data module. Because data modules are not structured like this. You do not have a database view and a business view and a presentation view. All of that is kind of collapsed down into a single view in a data module. And so our utility will do the same thing. It's going to evaluate the sales target and see where all did it come from and collapse it down into a single table in data modules instead of this cascading set of tables across a number of views. It'll do that for all of these. So the retailer location table is one I like to call out because what this is going to become in the data module, as you'll see, is a single table that we'll see in the data module. It will be a custom table, which is a data module feature. And that is actually a combination of 5 underlying tables that are presented as one to the end user. And we're able to dissect that complexity and translate it into a data module. Okay. Now, I did see that there were some questions coming in. And so let me just pop open the chat panel so I can have a gander at those. So, yep, everybody sees it. Okay. How to refresh a data module using Excel file without re-upload, like Power BI Direct Query. So, there's really not a way to do that to my knowledge, Srini. There are some functions in the new Cognos REST API that relate to the loading of files. So I believe you could write a simple script that would automatically, based on whatever condition, you know, every hour or when certain conditions are met, upload an Excel file into Cognos Analytics. But it doesn't have the ability to query an Excel file sitting on a drive as if it were a database table. But that's a good question.
Hey, Ryan, this is Jason. I actually explored a little bit related, and this isn't related to your presentation, so I apologize about jumping in here. But with Jupyter Notebooks now being available in Cognos Analytics, you probably could call a library that has an OS method in it that has permissions to a file system location where the Excel file exists.
Yeah.
And then you can create a notebook that points to that, and you can then schedule the notebook to run. So it's kind of an indirect way of doing it, but that is one possibility.
And I think that's a good point to bring up, Jason, and I'm glad you did, is that like Jupyter Notebooks are almost like the magic bullet for solving a lot of problems in Cognos that you may not think of because of what it enables you to do, having access to being able to write all this stuff in Python within Cognos, that a lot of things that you might think, well, you can't do that. Like the answer I just gave, it didn't occur. I should have thought to myself, you know what? I bet you can do that in Jupyter. So I'd encourage you, if you haven't used them or checked them out, to check them out because of that very reason, that you can really, a lot of things that traditionally are hard to solve or you can't solve, you might be able to address very easily using a Jupyter notebook. Okay, so we've walked through the framework manager model. I know it's very exciting to take a look at an FM model with me, but what this is a Node.js application that we run. It runs on a Windows machine. It does not have to be installed alongside Cognos. It doesn't have an agent. It doesn't have a listener. It doesn't do anything like that. What it does is it does the conversion from the framework manager XML to the data module XML, and then it inserts it into the content store with like a SQL update is how it works today. Now, there are some things in the REST API that I think we'll be able to get away from interacting directly with the content store and go through the REST API in the future, but that's how it functions today, okay? And the way it works is that if you look in this, there's a configuration file. So it's located, and it's not important that you know this, but this configuration file that you edit, it looks like this. So what you say to what you provide in is the input and output type. So the input type is framework manager, the output type is data module. In theory, this should work the opposite way, but I will tell you we haven't tried it yet, but it should work the opposite way as well. And then you need to provide it the path to the model XML. So in this case, the model I'm going to be converting is called module 6A. It's a model we use for testing. And then you provide the store ID of the data module that you're writing to. So you need to have a blank data module. And it doesn't have to be blank. Whatever's in there, it will overwrite it. But you probably want a blank one so that you're not overwriting something that already exists. And we provide you the content store query you can use here in order to get this this identifier, okay? And then here in filtered packages, you provide which specific packages you want to map to this data module. Now, I'm going to do this in a one-to-one way, but you can set this file up so that it will convert, 20 packages at once, or it can convert multiple models at the same time. So you could set it up, for example, if you make it, if you make a habit of modeling in Framework Manager and then converting to data modules, you could set this file up so that it will automatically convert, all of your models, Framework Manager models, to data modules when you run the conversion utility. But for the sake of today's presentation, I'm just going to be doing a one-to-one. But I'm going to be converting both packages. So this filter packages, if I leave blank, it will convert all packages. Whereas if I were to put in the name of one of these packages, if I were to put package 6A in here, what it would do is it would just convert that package to this source or this target data module. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Now, I mentioned this is a Node application. So you can see I was testing it earlier today. But you come in here into PowerShell and you basically run the command to execute the conversion. And you can see here it says, okay, right, I've written module 6a.xml2 12507, right? And now, if we go ahead and look in the in here, now one thing to note about this that's kind of curious is that Cognos is caching the data modules in a way that kind of requires you to clear your browser cache or use a private browse in a private window in order to see these changes. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just open a new private window, and we'll go ahead and log into the Cognos environment that we use here at PM Square. And we're going to take a look at that same data module, the one that I deleted, and see what is going on with it. Okay, so that was demo target. And as I open that up, you can see now we have the end result of those, both of those packages being combined into a single data module. So if I walk through this and I show you how we did this, I think it gets to the heart of the difference between how you build Framework Manager models and data modules. And the way we did this is I mentioned we collapse everything down into a single layer, okay? So something simple like the product type table, which is a query subject that we're just taking as is from Framework Manager into data modules, you just get this one table in data modules, right? It's very straightforward. Now, the retailer location, you recall, is actually a query subject, a model query subject that is a composite of a number of underlying database query subjects, okay? And the way we handle that here is we build the custom table. So this retailer location table is a combination of these three tables that flow into retailer location, and it has an attached table filter on it. So we're able to pick all of that up, collapse it down into this single object. And then what we do is we take these underlying tables, kind of the supporting tables, and we put them into what we call the data source tables folder. So any table that exists, say in the database view or the business view, that does not exist in the presentation view, but is necessary to generate the package, we're going to nest in data source tables. But the thing we're not going to do is we're not going to include in here anything that is not a part of the package. So if you have a giant model that's got 15 or 20 packages in it, and we're converting a package that only, say it's got 500 tables and this package only needs 20 of those 500 tables, we're not converting all 500 tables into a data module, right? We're only taking the ones that are necessary to produce the presentation view objects that comprise the package that end users are interacting with. That's it. So all the rest of the complexity gets left behind. You can see here a table built off of SQL. So we're able to take the SQL and convert it into data modules. And actually the SQL syntax between data modules and Framework Manager is just like a hair different. So we're able to do that conversion for you. You can see here the sales table is a composite of two underlying SQL tables. So this isn't, our ability to do this is not restricted to a particular type of query subject, like only things that are sourced a particular way, whether you're hand coding SQL or you're using the wizard to add objects into data modules or into a framework manager, whatever you're doing, we're able to decode it and put it in here. And we're able to carry forward objects like these filters or custom calculations or anything like that that you have in the underlying framework manager model, we can pull and bring into the data module by running this utility script. So I'm going to stop there and see what questions do people have that I might be able to answer about this. And really, how does this, what are your reactions to it? Would this be useful? What can we do to make it more helpful for you going forward? Because I do think, so I'll answer one question right off the bat that I get asked almost every time I talk about this. Well, when is Framework Manager going away? Because that is like the day that happens is the day when you will most need this. Obviously, I don't work for IBM, but I have a great relationship with them, and so it's the answer to that is there's no anticipated sunset date for Framework Manager that I've ever heard of. So it's not that it's going to go away, to my knowledge, anytime soon. But as we keep going forward, data modules are going to get more and more really nice features that you're going to want to use. And so I do think you should start to think about making this transition and doing new development in data modules where you don't need things like DMRs or that stuff, and instead focus on building new stuff in data modules, and then start to think about what does a transition path for your existing FM models into data modules look like. So one question here: why would we need to convert a package to a data module just because FM will be going away? Yeah, Sean. So that's the number one reason. The other reasons that people will give. So there are customers who are just moving into standardizing on data modules to the extent that they can, and they want to make this migration. And then there are features in here that are pretty nice that help you, like say the relative time, for example. You want to take advantage of that. That's an example of a feature that you might want to move. Might want to use data modules for, and so you might want to move your framework manager model into a data module. The other thing is that data modules are really nicely set up for kind of what you might think of like as object-oriented design for data models. Using the linked module feature, it's really actually works very well to have kind of large enterprise data modules and then have smaller self-service modules that inherit a slice of the objects from the larger enterprise module. And so if you're looking at doing that sort of deployment and you kind of want to modernize things to where a lot of data modeling can be done by end users with still governance in place because of the linked tables and kind of data module inheritance, you can have a data module that is governed and then a self-service module that inherits objects from the governed module where end users can't mess with those governed objects. They can put in new stuff. They can't mess with the stuff they inherited. So I have helped customers kind of go down that path. And in order to really enable all that, you do need to transition into data modules. I see a question here. Can you apply security filters in data modules like we do in Framework Manager? Yes. So where those come into play is actually if you in the data server on a table. So if I were to look at, say, the retailer activity table, right, I can choose set data security. And then you'll see in here, I have the ability to create a new data security definition where I would pick a particular group or role, like, let's go ahead and grab, and I apologize, the UI is a little slow because I'm going over our VPN. And so in order to remote into the server I use to show you how this works, I have to connect to our VPN, and it makes things a little slow. Although normally not this slow. Let's see if I can pull that up. Okay. So, I want analytics users or a particular group, to have access to so like analytics users, I'm going to say can only see retailer codes, like the following retailer codes, for example. So you can set it at that level. And then if you need to do something more advanced, I don't think we have a video out for it yet, but we have some pretty impressive kind of using macros and stuff like that we can do in data modules to give you really advanced security, using tables, lookup tables and things like that. So, but out of the box, you can do this in data modules. What you can't do in data modules, and this is a big sticking point for people, is object security. So I can't have one data module where I would say, hey, the product management team has access to the product tables, but nobody else does in the same data module. That's not an option today. But what I would say is data modules, if you take a step back and you look at the methodology I was describing before, where you have kind of the enterprise model or the governed model, and then you have smaller models that inherit objects from the enterprise model, the way you solve this problem is you just have two different data modules, and they automatically inherit those objects. So you have one data module for product managers, one for other people, and you don't actually have to maintain those data modules as far as, we changed the calculation in the enterprise model, so now we got to go and change it in all these other models. Like that will just flow through. You don't have to worry about it. So that's kind of one of the ways you solve that problem. I see report builds from data modules, not support search select prompt. Will we get this functionality in the future? So I know that is something that they're working on, is what I've been told. And that's kind of the extent of my knowledge. So I would say yes. When and how is unclear to me, but I do know that that's something they're working on. So does row level security come over with a session parameter? So let me think about that. It should, because you're using the same data source. I guess it depends on how you've defined that, Sanish, or rather, Kiran. But I think it should, yeah. Can identify dependencies on reports that are dependent on data items, right? Yes. That's correct. So they don't have a good way to see dependencies on these data items today. Like, what all uses this field? There's no good way to answer that question, really. I would say probably Modio PI Pro is going to give you your best look at that. Luckily, Modio PI Pro is pretty inexpensive and a very powerful tool. It would be nice if it happened out of the box. I do know that it's something IBM's aware of, but I'm not sure when that will or won't be delivered. Very large modules, Sridhar, hello, more than 1,000 tables and joins. Do they convert clean? Or do we have best practice to migrate very large models? So they do convert. The thing about a very large model, when you start to get like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 tables, is actually that the data module UI starts to chug a little bit. And so what I would do in that situation is I would take a look at your either, if you have a situation where you've got a really big model, but it's got a lot of packages and the packages are smaller, instead of doing the model to a data module, I would say, let's do a package to a package, right? So you'd have one model to start, but our conversion would maybe lead to 15 models. Or if you don't have that, then I would consider doing that, because now I will say I haven't tested this on 11.2. But I know for sure as of 11.16, 11.17, once you started to get like thousands of tables and data modules, the UI itself really started to bog down. So that is one limitation. And one of the reasons why we really recommend, when you're making the transition to data modules, that instead of thinking in terms of building like a giant module that covers all your data, or, or an entire source system, say you're going against an operational source and it's got thousands of tables. I did a project once, where we were looking at Oracle customer care and billing and modeling that operationally into Cognos with no data warehouse, which I did not recommend they did, but they did. And I think we had, 17 or 19,000 tables and data in Framework Manager or something like that. That is something that if you have something like that today, and it all feeds into one giant package, I would say, well, we need to do a little bit of work to probably break it into smaller chunks, because you don't want to have 17,000 tables in a data module. They're better suited for kind of smaller purpose-built modules that support your different applications internally. That's not to say you can't use it like, hey, let's put every table in a data warehouse in here. Like, you can. But if your data warehouse has, 15,000 tables, the user interface for data modules might slow down. And again, have not tested on 11.2. But that was the case in 11.1.7. Okay. Vicky, your question about SQL Server extended properties and comments, I do not know. I'll have to look into that. If the data module, I guess, okay. I think I'm reading these questions wrong. That was Srini's question. Vicky's question, if the data module contains links, will that be converted to a data module, or does it go into a separate data model? Not sure I 100% understand the question there, if you wouldn't mind clarifying. So I have, if we look at the calendar or the schedule, I have about 6 minutes left, say. These are all really good questions. Okay. Jason, any insight into any of the kind of feature functionality questions that were asked that maybe I don't have?
In terms of sunsetting Framework Manager,
yeah, or just
or
things
even
like yeah,
search and select, yeah, that's a fan favorite, and it's
yeah,
on
yeah.
it's on the list. And even as someone who works for IBM, my voice is one of many. I'll just say that. But it's on the list, and our offering team's doing the best they can to get the most important stuff out the door.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying, right? Linked, okay, segmented modules. Yeah, it doesn't accommodate segmented modules today. That's pretty, I don't run into that a whole lot. But I think if you were interested in this, we would be able to, the nice thing when you develop the software is you can accommodate people's requests. So it's easy to do that. Okay, so the question then is, I'll wrap up here and then we can go to the poll questions. Okay, this is cool. This is neat. Maybe you're interested in this. How do we do it? The way we do it at PM Square is we actually do it, we call this like a software-enabled consulting. So we don't sell you the software and say, yeah, it's $10,000 for the software or something like that. What we do is, you define a project. We would like these objects converted, and then we come in and we use this utility to dramatically speed up the process. So, you can take something that might take many, many weeks or months to kind of rebuild these data modules and rebuild your framework manager models into data modules. And because as you can see, it's not a straight conversion. You do kind of have to interrogate what each object in the framework manager model is doing and where it comes from in order to kind of data modulify that. We can take something that might take you months to do and then get it down into a couple days or a week or something like that. And then that also enables us to gap fill. So the things that that the utility can't convert, like a DMR, well, we can't build a DMR in data modules, but we can build navigation hierarchies, which do give you, or navigation paths, which do give you drill up, drill down capability. So the ability to supplement that, or you're using parameter maps. Well, we could bring in someone like Paul to help us figure out, okay, what are you doing with those parameter maps, and how can we translate that to the data module world? Is the way we do this. So it's really, as it stands today, it's a consulting engagement. And then we can come in and do it for you. Now, coming out of the consulting engagement, if you were interested in like, hey, I want to continue to use this, then we could talk about, okay, how do we best leave it behind for you to use? But up front, it's a small consulting engagement to use. So with that, I'll wrap up. I want to thank you all for coming. I'm very happy. I was very happy to see that we were doing another Midwest user group. As a Midwesterner, I really care about keeping this user group active and keeping you guys engaged. And I was really happy to see how many people showed up today. So again, I'm Ryan Daly. thanks for attending my talk, and I will rope in our MC here and take it from there. So again, thank you everybody, and you'll see me again in a little bit to show you the CogBox utility, which is also very exciting.
Thanks, Ryan. We do have 3 poll questions. So I am going to share a screen. If you go to another window, you can go to your phone. Just go to menti.com, which you should see at the top here, menti.com, and then use this code 11787071. And the first question is, what topics are you interested in for future user group meetings? Select all that apply. And if something is not on here that you'd like to learn more about or hear more about, please just post that in the meeting chat. So again, that's menti.com. You should see it at the top of the screen. Oops. Okay, it looks like about 16 or 18 have submitted out of, what do we have here? 50, 60? I'll give it a 30 more seconds just to make sure everyone has a chance to get in and post what they're most interested in seeing. Okay, so it looks like what's new in Cognos Analytics and the Cognos Analytics feature deep dive. So I think kind of along the same lines as what we just did. So that's good to hear that we're on the right track, and we can definitely reach out to see if there's any specific features you're looking for deep dives as we go into the next planning session. So the next question, sorry if you're still posting. Next question. Would you be comfortable meeting in person for the next user group meeting, which would tentatively be, let's just go with end of Q1 2022? A location to be determined. I'm glad I put the unsure in there because I was just going to do yes or no, but I think there's a lot of unknowns. So I totally get that. Okay.
And Marie, this is Jason. I'm glad we're asking this question, just because with how things are just in society today, and just a lot of the uncertainty around the dynamics of the pandemic and the variants of it, I think it's just really important that we get good feedback from our participants and the people who are part of the community to take into account what they're comfortable with. Personally, I love being in person. However, there are just some safety constraints and just constraints relative to extending courtesies to members of the community.
Yep, agree. Okay, and last, before we move to the API integration, is more fun. What Olympic events have you been watching? And none is an option. Badminton, I did not even know that it was an Olympic event. There's all sorts of things I didn't realize were Olympic events.
Yeah, BMX racing.
So it looks like gymnastics, none, and swimming are the winners. Which is actually fun because mine are gymnastics and swimming. I have not seen anything else. Jousting. Nice. Okay. Thank you for taking part in the poll. I think I can just exit here. Then stop sharing. Okay. So next is Jason with Cognos API integration. Jason, sorry, your time is cut a little short. Going around till around 2 o'clock with this one. So go ahead.
Okay, good. So one of the things, I'm Jason Bennett. I work with IBM. I've been an IBM tech seller. It's going on, it'll be 7 years this month. And the 20 plus years prior to that, I was in a client role, predominantly in finance, financial planning and analysis, but I bounced back and forth between finance and the business and IT. As they say, I guess no good deed goes unpunished. And some of the things that I've learned over time is automating tasks sometimes is really, really important. And as Ryan was talking about earlier, it's not that you can't do it by hand and you can't go through what you've always done.
Kevin, you're moving.
But the reality, I think, is everyone would rather work on things that are fun and new and things that grow versus things that run. And what I'm going to show a brief slice of today is something that we introduced not too long ago with Cognos Analytics. And that's the ability for essentially Cognos Analytics to be listening for a REST request. And think of a REST request as a way to issue a piece of code from one place to allow.
It's good. I mean, it's still going on. I'm in between presentations right now.
Oh, Ryan, we can hear you.
FM to DM conversion. Yeah, people had a lot of questions.
Okay, Marie, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. And so think of a REST request as a way for a machine or a person to issue a query or a command to something that's listening to that command and then execute a task or execute a transaction. And a lot of the mobile apps that you use, a lot of the web-based applications that you use, well, you may not even know it, actually use REST-based requests. A lot of them use HTTP. They're very lightweight. They're very fast. It utilizes oftentimes open source technology like JSON or other things that don't require any kind of vendor lock-in. And what I'm going to show today is how to execute a transaction against Cognos Analytics that allows you to gather information from it and then make a change to it. And the example that I'm going to use today is something that I'm hearing more and more often in the marketplace today, where customers or clients have, let's say, a data module or metadata that is really in flux. And in a very short amount of time, because of a project, or let's say a data mart refreshes, tables are being added, the GL's being updated. All of these tables are now coming in and available where they previously weren't to modeled data. And it doesn't have to be fully modeled data, but let's say it's just modeled data. It's some modeled data that's available to users who are doing reporting, to doing analysis, to running queries. And instead of a Cognos administrator or someone who has access to metadata inside Cognos Analytics going in and manually refreshing that, we're all familiar with where that is. I'm going to show you a way to do that automatically. So the example that I'm going to be using is, let's go to data server connections. It's going to be in this call center data server connection. And I can see that this call center schema is not loaded, doesn't have anything in it. The tool that I'm going to be using to issue a REST-based request against Cognos Analytics is called Postman. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's free, it's easy to use, and this is what I'm going to be using today. And with Cognos Analytics comes some documentation of how to use these REST requests. I'll post that in the chat at the conclusion of this session. I think this session's going to go pretty quickly just because we've got a pretty packed agenda today. But the first thing I'm going to do is once I connect to the environment, which is my environment here over port 9300, and this is the path where I'm going to be establishing a session to Cognos Analytics. Just because you issue a REST request against Cognos doesn't mean you can get around security. You can never get around security. So let's do this. Okay, the important thing for the next steps is for me to grab this session key. And think of a session key kind of like a cookie. Eventually, our offering team, our developers would like to use an API-based key where that key is safely stored. It can be called and then issued or used, but they're just not quite there yet. And they didn't want the coding for using an API-based key, a secure API-based key, to hold up the release of these capabilities. So I'm going to copy this key. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a list of all of the data sources. And here's the key value pair that I'm going to paste this cookie or this key into IBM BA authorization. And now what it's returning to me in a JSON-based format are all of the data sources that are in my Cognos Analytics image. And you think, well, why would I want that? Well, sometimes, especially with the amount of data that's modeled with the sources that are in a Cognos environment, this is just a really, really easy way to inventory stuff that's in your environment so you can keep it tidy. It gives you when it was created, when it was last updated, so you can look and say, well, this was created 8 or 10 years ago or 5 years ago. It hasn't been updated since. Are people even still using it? So it gives you a reason to rationalize what objects you have in Cognos to, again, keep things tidy. Maybe you can do a consolidation. So maybe instead of a number of different data server connections, you can consolidate those and then just bring multiple connections into one and then consolidate the objects and the tables and filters and so forth that you would use for modeling. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to retrieve information based on this call center data server connection. I'm going to paste my cookie in, and I've got 3 schemas. Even though I'm not retrieving 3 schemas, this call center data server connection has 3 different schemas, and it's giving me all of the information about it that I would need. Marie, I'm not looking at the chat right now. Are there any chat questions that have come through before I move on?
Yep. Is there a way to call API methods over a gateway URL?
Possibly with the SDK, but what I'm seeing quite a bit is people are using like a scheduler, anything that can issue a REST-based request, like Schedule M, or any kind of tool like this. But I can take that as a follow-up, and we'll collect that as a part of the chat.
And then one other one. Are you going to share the collection via GitHub or on community?
I can certainly do that. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to load the call center schema. What it does is it gives me a status of 202, and 200 based responses are generally successful in terms of what the target receives. So you're not getting access denied. It's not a page, it's not a resource not found. And the cool thing is it's giving me a task ID, which means that if I go into Cognos Analytics and I refresh the jobs that have occurred, I can see that this call center data module for the DBL schema was updated. Now it says unavailable in terms of who ran it, and I'd like to see some credentials get put in there so that it's not anonymized every time. But nonetheless, all of those jobs actually get created and logged in the content store. We'll go back to our call center connection schema, and now I can see that 11 of 12 tables have been loaded. And you're thinking, well, how come only 11 have been loaded? Is because in one of the specifications when I cleared, I held back one of the tables, the feedback table. And if I go back to Cognos Analytics, what I would expect to see, I go to load options, this feedback table wasn't touched because when I cleared the metadata, I left that one alone. Now, in the example that I mentioned before, what if I want to add a table and I want Cognos Analytics or I want this REST-based process to pick it up? So I'm just going to go into SQL Server. I know it probably should be DB2, but it's not DB2 today, it's SQL Server. And I'm going to create a new table. And we'll just call this field cust ID, save it as demo table. All right, now this table has been added to the schema, but Cognos has no idea that it's there quite yet. So let's go back to Postman and we'll clear, let's see here. Let's see, sorry, here we go. So let's get our key because that was important. I did say that right at the beginning. So that our key wasn't there. So let's enter our key in here. Okay, 204, which is good, no content. That means all of the metadata except for that one table has been cleared. Now let's load that schema again. It's accepted. Got 1 minute left. It'll be erased to the finish. Let's go back to Cognos Analytics. We will refresh this. We should expect to see a job at 1:59, which is now. And now let's have a look at the call center data server connection and look at schemas. 12 of 13 tables loaded, so now it incremented by 1. Go to load options, and I expect to see demo table in there. There it is. So what we did is we just allowed an external application to allow Cognos Analytics to clear and refresh metadata inside of it that can be done in an autonomous way. And that's really important because sometimes users are aware when, let's say if the data mart's being refreshed or a set of tables is being refreshed, when do those tables get pulled into Cognos so I can do reporting? And a lot of times the communication via email or other channels that organizations use can be sometimes kind of clunky. And as a part of the job that refreshes the data, if this is attached right to the end, then it's all seamless, it's all included, it's all bundled together. And users can have confidence that once the general or the main process is done, that Cognos will be updated accordingly. Okay, I'll stop sharing. Let me quickly hit the chat and see what other questions we have.
Yep, just one more. What are some other examples of functionality you would use the API for?
Lots. For, let's say, administration. Looking through the content store to look for orphaned IDs, to go in and remove or clean up those. I'm going to share what's called a swagger, which is a list of all of the available REST-based commands. And let's just have a look at this quickly. I'm going to share I know I'm going to be a minute over here in just a second, Marie, but let me share my screen again. Okay. Starting with, I believe, 11.1.7, REST APIs became available in Cognos Analytics. And at the end of the URL for Cognos, for the port that you're using, whatever that might be, is API docs, and then a pound. And it gives all of the various methods that are available now. I can fetch data sources. I can delete connections, update connections. I can add sign-ons. So you may have, let's say, there may be a bulk request to say we're now going to use a particular sign-on, particular service ID for specific sign-ons for specific connections. And maybe you have a sign-on for HR tables, maybe you have a sign-on for finance tables, and it could take you literally all day going into each one of those in Cognos Analytics and changing them manually. And that's no guarantee that you don't end up making a mistake with the password and then users can't run their stuff. This would be a way to go in and sweep all of those objects all at one time with assurances that it's all being applied in a very uniform way. So that's just one of the other ways that this could be used. Tenant administration. And I expect that the library of methods, REST methods, that will significantly expand with future releases. Simply put, there are just fewer people doing the work these days, and more is expected. And why not automate this stuff where you can, and then still follow a good change management process to make sure these processes are finishing successfully. Okay.
All right, thank you, Jason.
Yep,
Ryan,
thanks so much.
Are you okay going to 2:20 if I steal like 3 minutes?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I forgot about the polls afterwards. So let's do that really quick. It's going to be the same Menti link. So I posted that, and I will share my screen. I'm just going to post 2 questions. Share screen. Oops. So this first question is regarding the feedback for converting framework manager models to data modules session, from the first one we saw. I'm gonna wait till I get at least 20. Okay. 10-second warning. Okay, and next question. Regarding the Cognos API integration session that Jason just did. Again, same set of feedback questions. All right, thank you so much. All right, Ryan, back to you.
There we go. Hello, everybody. What we're going to talk about now for the next 15 minutes is something that we call the CogBox. So the CogBox is actually a set of utilities developed by Cognos Paul Mendelson. I'm sure you're all familiar with Paul. He's of the famous Cognos Paul blog. Pretty much everybody in the Cognos world has reached out to Paul at some point with a question about how do I accomplish blank in Cognos. And Paul's always been very generous with his time. And what we kind of realized is that, a lot of the stuff Paul's made, we could kind of bring together into a product, really, to make available to the Cognos community to help them do Paul-like stuff, close gaps in the product, or give you accelerators to get certain things done. And so that's what the CogBox is all about. So next 15 minutes, I'm going to give you a whirlwind tour of what all is in it. Now, it has components for various pieces of Cognos. So, dashboards, data modules, report authoring. There's kind of CogBox pieces for all of that. And there's too much to show in this amount of time, really. So as I'm going through this, if you go to pmsquare.com/CogBox, you should get to this page that lists all of the stuff. So there's a lot of stuff here I'm not going to show. In fact, there's stuff that we have that's not even listed in here now that I look at this. There's a lot to it. So let's dive in. There were a lot of questions about data modules earlier, so I will start there, and let's just take a look at that data module that I had open earlier. So the one that I did the conversion on. And what can the CogBox do to help you with this data module? There's a couple things. So you see this icon up here, the CogBox icon. When you click on this, it opens up the CogBox menu. The options you get here depend on which part of the UI you're in. So in data modules, you have the query editor and the show data items view. The query editor is going to give you a list of all the queries that exist in the model, okay? And there's a couple things you can do. One, you can rename an identifier. So like if I wanted to change retailer to something else, right? This happens a lot, when you upload Excel spreadsheets, a lot of times they come in here because people forget to rename the tab that it's on. And so it gives the table the name of the tab that you're looking at. And so you might want to bulk rename these. It's a lot easier to do here, just going down the list than it is going into the properties of each one. But the really cool thing that this does has to do with custom tables. So if you've used data modules, you know that once you build a custom table, it's like frozen. You can't, if I build, say, this table, retailer, retailer type, and retailer site, I cannot change that after the fact. I have to build a whole new custom table. Let's say I want to drop retailer out of this for whatever reason. I have to create a whole new custom table in order to do that. And that will break a lot of downstream objects. Well, what you can do with the CogBox is you click on this and you can see I can add new tables or remove tables. So let's say I want to put in retailer contact. Let's add a row there, okay? I click finish, and you can see when I close out of this and I look at the custom tables under retailer location, there's the retailer contact table. I was able to add it in using the CogBox, something you can't do out of the box. This is a major frustration for people who are working with custom tables. It's very hard to edit them after the fact, and it is an example of what you can accomplish using this tool. The other thing you can do in here, in the query editor, you can automatically sort objects, which you can't do otherwise. So you can sort ascending, descending, or magic. Like if I want to sort sales target by magic, okay, and then I finish and I come out here and look at sales target, you'll see that it's kind of sorted this with the sales target on the bottom, right? Let me look at let's look at sales. I'll show you the same thing here. So if I go into CogBox, query editor, and let's sort sales. See, you can see there it reordered that table for me. So I can sort it in whatever order I want. And it does take a second to apply because of the VPN that I'm on. Normally it's pretty instantaneous. And then the show data items makes it easy to find stuff. So we were talking about having big data modules, and it can be very hard to find things in data modules. This makes it easier to search for things, and not just for their names, right? To search across the attributes. And one of the enhancements we're working on is to give you the ability to change all these things from this screen. So you don't have to use this to find it and then go ahead and change it. You can make the change directly from this screen. Now, a lot of the thing that it allows you to do in that's very nice in dashboards is very simple. Let me see if I have a good dashboard to show this from. So one of the problems with dashboards, when you're doing a lot of editing in a data module, it's very frustrating, is that you can't, apparently I saved a blank dashboard here. Let me connect to that data module. So one of the frustrating things is, like, when you make changes to a data module, you have to go back here, click on the properties, choose relink, navigate back to this, and then select it. Well, what we've given you in here is when you make change to the data module, you can simply go up here and choose. Paul, you're on the call. Where did that go? We give you the ability to skip relinking the module and to just automatically pull the new version in. Yeah, Paul says in the chat, hey, where did it go? I don't know where it went either. You can also edit the data player speed. So the data player object, one of the complaints about it is it's a fixed speed. We give you the ability to edit it in here. Not sure why the automatic relinking isn't working, but that's normally a pretty nice feature here. Now, this is all good stuff, but the real kind of show-stopping features of this, in my mind, are two. One is the ability to change the, where did it go? The ability to change the, it's going to be in Paul's folder. The ability to copy and paste parameters between reports, okay? Where's the example of that? Copy, paste params. I'm not sure where it went. In any case, if you look in here and say I click on a report, you'll see copy parameters. Now, there were none found here, but that would copy the parameter values out of that report and allow me to paste them into another report directly from this UI without having to go into, do any editing to the report at all. I can copy paste params between report param values. This is especially useful if, like, I know some of you on the call have a situation where you have, where your standard reports are kind of secured, and then your end users predominantly interact with views, and those views may have saved params in them. It gives your end users the ability to set up the params they want to use and then bulk copy paste them to a huge number of report views. It just dramatically improves the management of that sort of thing. And then what it's enables you to do in reporting is really pretty amazing. So I'm going to pull open what we call the fancy report here in Cognos, and we'll let that run for a second. And while that's running, I am just going to take a quick look at the chat. Okay, Paul says it's in demo assets. I'll jump back to that if we have time. Actually, I can just do that right now. Where team content? Oh, so you can see I got this notification. Like, this happens even when I'm not in the report. This is cool. So this is an event. We actually interact with the event notification system in Cognos, and we're able to alert the users through the event notification system to conditions that exist in underlying reports. So you can see here, I got this pop-up. The following product lines are below target: golf equipment, mountaineering equipment, outdoor protection. Well, that's interesting. Let me pop over to this dashboard. Now, this is the dashboard built in reporting. And you can see golf equipment, mountaineering equipment, outdoor protection. Those are below the threshold that I'm looking for. We have built into this, all of these objects up top are enabled via what comes with the CogBox. So I want to switch to line charts. I can simply click this button. You notice nothing has to reload. It's pretty much instantaneous to switch between bar and line charts. I have the access to a drop-down filter pane where I can say, change which month I'm looking at or which region. Like, maybe I just want to look at Asia Pacific. I get this notification, you selected Asia Pacific. And then when I click finish, it's going to run the report. And I should get a notification up top that's going to tell me, for questions regarding Asia Pacific, please contact Tom, right? So that was just a simple example of someone does something in a report, and based on the value of the prompt they selected, you give them a custom message, okay? Let's go ahead and take this back out to show us everything. Okay, we also have in here the ability to directly email from the report. So I can click on this and you'll see, which format do I want? Let's send a PDF, and I want to see, hey, Ryan, what's up? And I'm going to send it to myself. And let's add that over, and I'm going to CC Paul. Okay, and let's send that off. I'm going to get a notification here that the email was successfully sent. And then I'll show you guys so success, the report has been emailed. And if we look in my inbox, you should see here in a second. There you go. So here you can see, now I use dark theme, which throws this off a smidge, but here you can see it actually scraped here's the message I typed, and then it actually took the objects from the report, embedded them in the email, so the visualizations and everything, and it sent me this PDF that I had requested as part of the email. So there's the PDF that it sent.
Ryan, there's a question in the chat.
Sure.
Do you need admin access to download CogBox and add the extension to the Cognos?
Well, you probably do need admin access to add it to the Cognos portal, because the way you add it is through the manage menu and then under customization. So if you don't have access to this menu, you'll need to work with someone who does. We have here there's a lot of UI stuff. So like this slide out menu for a links library to give you contextual information that you might be interested in as an end user. And then I'm curious what this icon does. I don't feel like I've seen that there before. Paul's always in here changing stuff on me. It's like an exciting adventure every time I open this. And then we have these icons that allow you to directly export an Excel file or a PDF. Those are cool, but the one that, like, the real showstopper is this one. So I'm going to click this button. You'll see your PowerPoint is loading. And then I've got this PowerPoint available. I click OK. And let me bring this over to show you what it did. So here you can see it did all of this automatically. There's a configuration you have to set up that tells it kind of how you want things formatted. And once you have that set up, you can see here, I've got the visualizations from the chart. It's sliced per slide by the different product lines that I have. And then it gets sliced again by the regions, right? And you can see here, for example, that it contains the visualizations. It's got our logo in the corner. It's got a slide title. It's paginated. It says who exported it and when they exported it. And it's got this details table that is not visible to the end user anywhere in the report. So in this case, we know that, say, when you're this presentation, you might want the details table on it. So we've got it so that even though you can't see the details table anywhere in the report itself when you're interacting with it as an end user, you can come in here and see the details table when you export the PowerPoint. And so this is a really powerful tool. The PowerPoint export is kind of the #1 reason that people choose to get the CogBox. There are 2 versions of it. One is free, okay, and the free version, it has, you can go to the website and you'll see here what all comes free and what all is in the premium version, okay? So the free version contains most of what we call the quality of life stuff, the copy paste parameters. We give you the ability to export the PDF and Excel buttons, the ability to expand collapse on lists and crosstabs, easy editing of parameters and clipboard, all the data modules things I showed you. All of that sort of stuff is in the free version. The paid version is what you see here. So that's really like the custom code that Paul has written. These come in the form of custom controls. So they're deployable custom controls. This is kind of our secret sauce at PM Square. When we get brought into really advanced projects, we kind of take what we learn there and we add it to this. So that's what's available in the CogBox. Go out and download the free version today, play around with it, see if you like it. The paid version is kind of a flat fee of $5,000 per year. So there's really no, it's relatively inexpensive. It's easy to, and we wanted to make it easy to understand the pricing and all that sort of stuff. So how does it do with C upgrades? If you upgrade to a new version, does it go wrong with the ride peacefully? For the most part, it does, because a lot of the custom code we've deployed is in the context of custom controls. That is like a supported kind of self-contained JavaScript management that IBM has given us. So the stuff that functions that way rides along really nicely. When big new versions come out, we do have to, we go ensure and we go through and ensure that they work. We're working on a redesign of it right now so that the user interface looks like 11.2. I don't think all of our environments are running on Amazon Web Services. I don't think that EC2 machine is up right now. Otherwise, I'd give you guys, well, I'm out of time anyway, but I'd give you a sneak preview of it. But this is what it's all about. So go out and download the free version. Let us know what you think. And then if you're interested in things like the PowerPoint export or some of the like these two are free. It's the PowerPoint one that is in the premium version. If you're interested in those sorts of things, you want to explore what's in the premium version, go ahead and talk to us. But really, our number one thing that we want to do is make it available to as many people as possible. It's not user licensing, Sridhar. So it's the flat fee per production environment. Unlimited users.
Thank you so much, Ryan,
You're
for
welcome.
demonstrating all those features.
Yeah, that was kind of a blur. So, if you want to know more, reach out to me or check out our YouTube channel. I think it's just youtube.com/c/PM Square. I'm not sure, but check out our YouTube channel. There's a more in-depth view of a lot of these things in there. And contact Joel if you're interested in this or the Framework Manager to Data Module Conversion. Joel Mackay is on the call today. I'm sure a lot of you know him. Just reach out to Joel and he'll take care of it. All right. Thank you, everybody. Do we have another poll here, or? I'm happy to keep going.
Hopefully we didn't lose Marie.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we did. Maybe she's on mute. Marie, if you're on mute, we can't hear you. Okay, I see the poll. So she did post the poll. I think she must just be having a connection issue.
Okay, Marie, it looks like you're unmuted now.
Sorry,
Wait.
did you say something? I took my headphones off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we lost your audio for a minute there.
Oh, whoops.
Marie, are we breaking here?
We are. Did I not say that?
No, I think we're having an audio problem. I didn't hear anything. Did anybody else?
I did not.
Yeah.
My apologies. We are breaking.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah.
So
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, well, that gives you like a 4-minute break. Do you want to shift out like 5 minutes and then we can just go till 3:45?
Marie, if you want to give everybody a break, let's say a 10-minute break, what's
Okay.
new? What's new in 11.2? I could go on for hours on that, but there really isn't hours worth of content. It's what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to cover a few things that are new in 11.2, and then just cover a few things that have been in product for a bit, just as a refresher to the community that this stuff is out there.
Okay. So we'll go next session starting at, what is it? Let's just make it an even number. I can't do math. What is it? 2:40.
Okay. And I think we have a slide deck or something to have up during the break if you want me to share my screen.
Sure. It's up to you.
There we go.
All right, let's get started again. Ryan or Joel, would you like to spend a minute to talk about Bacon? Going once.
Yeah, sure, Marie. Hi, everyone.
Okay.
Joel Mackay here at PM Square. The Business Analytics Conference is something that we do every summer. And we, for the last couple of years, have had to make it a virtual event. But we are really excited to be able to connect with folks who use IBM Analytics tools. This year it will be all free, all virtual. And we're very excited about our special presenters, Rob Thomas and Brian McGough. This is a great opportunity for hands-on training, some tech seminars, but we're also, we know that a lot of folks have kind of gotten a little bit of burnout with virtual events, and we've gone the extra mile to make networking and collaboration and connecting something that's exciting and fun, and we would invite you all to join us this year. So the link's right there in the chat, bacon.pmsquared.com. And we'd love to have you all join us there again later this month.
Thanks, Joel. All right, Jason, you're up, exploring Cognos 11.2.
All right, great, thanks. Before I get started, I'm going to share a couple of links with the group, one of which is a link to a free trial of Cognos Analytics. So if you haven't seen the latest version, if you haven't seen 11.2, what I'm going to show in just a minute, you can sign up. The trial's free, 30 days. You get about all of the feature function as you would in a fully licensed version. I don't think you'll notice really much of any difference. And it gives you a good opportunity to see what's in the box with the latest version. All right, so I'll start sharing. And the second link I put in the chat was for second. Marie, can you still hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. The second link I put in the chat was a link to a series of generally monthly meetings that we have both for Cognos and for Planning Analytics, and they're hosted by our offering management team, and they're appropriately titled Ask Me Anything. And the purpose and point of the sessions is just that. Bring any question you have about the product, about futures and roadmaps, about how do I do this, where can I find that. There's nothing that you need to provide in advance to IBM or to the offering team, the offering management team, the product team. Just bring your questions and bring your ears, because I generally attend most of these sessions and I learn something all the time. They're really helpful. And the questions that you might submit or that you would submit are anonymous. So the other participants don't see the chat, they don't see the questions, only the hosts do. So feel free, do invite you to join that tomorrow if you're available. Even if you're not a planning or analytics or a TM1 user, there's just a lot of good stuff that you could learn about doing better planning, doing smarter planning, doing integrated planning, without regard to the industry or the businesses that you're in or that you support. Okay, all right, you can see my screen. And probably the first thing you're going to notice is, why does the login screen already look different than it does in version, anything that came before 11.2? And because IBM made a change again. And the thing that I've observed in the last 2.5 to 3 years is the product team has done a couple of things. They are acutely aware that really, in order for our user base to be really honestly satisfied and happy with the product, that change is required. Change is mandatory, change is necessary. And also that as a part of the RFE or the request for enhancement process, they use this voting process that our clients submit to them on features and functions that they want, and they listen. And even if we have really, really large clients who say, we want this feature, or we don't want this feature, we want this feature, but there just aren't a lot of votes on it, then sometimes we just have to push that down the road, because we've got a lot of clients who have a deep usage of Cognos Analytics, and even some of the legacy Cognos features, that we really do a good job, I think, collecting that feedback and then doing our best to prioritize it. Not all of the features get in the releases at the time that we want, but our process of collecting that feedback has gotten much better, and we're listening to you guys. Okay, so splash screen already looks different from version 10, of course. There were some changes even within version 11.0, changes within 11.1, and now another change within 11.2. And the first thing that our development team looked at was utilizing a common design scheme, and it's called CarbonX. And this is a similar development scheme that is used for the Watson-based platform. It's the same scheme that's used for Planning Analytics platform. So as you go into the various solutions that IBM offers, things start to look more and more the same. The icons, the placement, the shapes, the gesturing, the location of where stuff is. So for example, on a lot of those splash pages, you'll have something at the top that like a welcome screen, that if you want to turn on and off, you can do that just right in your settings. And we've accumulated or aggregated a lot of the like things together so that the menus aren't A, hard to find, or B, once you find them, hard to use. And I can turn that on and off. And turning the welcome screen on and off is similar to turning hints on and off for the first time you log into Cognos. I generally turn those off right away. But nonetheless, you can customize this to the way that you want. Uploading data is, the menu it looks a little bit different, but the process is still the same. I can still drag a file onto the desktop. We've grouped this prepare tile in a way that you can select various data sources to create a data module. Exploring data now includes explorations in notebooks. We touched on notebooks a short while ago. They're becoming more and more prevalent, especially with power users, as including myself, someone who just growing up in finance. You learn how to write scripts. You learn how to do some basic coding, and having the advent of Jupyter notebooks inside Cognos Analytics really goes a long way. As Ryan said earlier, it's this capability that fills a lot of much needed gaps, and sometimes very obscure gaps that you just don't find in a lot of analytical tools or market-based solutions that focus predominantly on BI. And then the presentation of data, which is dashboards, reports, or stories. Marie, this wasn't one of our poll questions, but I'm going to ask it now and just try to get some feedback in the chat. I'll collect this afterward. I'll just have a peek at the chat when we save it off. But if those who are listening wouldn't mind chiming in the chat to say whether or not you're using stories at all, I would appreciate it. It's two things. I'd like to get the feedback back to our offering team. Plus, it may be something that would be a good topic for future meetings, and we may explore that at some other time. Okay, the administrative menu, for those of you who have access to creating data modules or even administration, it looks different with 11.2, even in so much of now where it is. I've got access to recent content instead of the window being personal content or my folders, personal folders, and then team content. It's now broken into a single icon that takes you to a landing page here. I can also create things from here, whether it's a data module, exploration, etc. I can also upload files from here. So the pages are active and they recognize when you're trying to create or enrich content as you're doing modeling or as you're starting an analytical project. Let's go back to the home page. The one thing that also we've invested a tremendous amount in is our community, especially in the areas of the accelerator catalog. If you guys have not gone out to the accelerator catalog, I urge you to do it early and often. There is really, really cool stuff in the accelerator catalog. So for example, I'm going to open up a dashboard that I created just a short while ago. And it has this visualization that I didn't even know was out there. And I'm just using the Go Sales data. And it's got this wave visualization that tells me by product what the gross margin is. It's also got a route a route mapper that overlays this stuff that I previously wasn't aware of. But as I go out there more and more, there's just stuff that I find really useful. Even notebook samples for those of you who are interested in exploring notebooks. The notebook samples have a lot of general Jupyter code in it. They'll have Cognos related or specific things in it also for calling data modules, for writing back data sets, for doing things like that. But otherwise, it's got some pretty good general code in it if for those of you who are inclined or interested in learning more about Jupyter notebooks. It's pretty good stuff. Marie, I'm not watching the chat. Are there any questions that have come in so far?
No.
Okay. I'm going to say the largest change with 11.2 has probably been the changes in the UI. There have been a few feature changes, but generally not a lot. It's really been the implementation of this CarbonX theming, as I spoke about before, moving a few things here and there. But if I want to create, let's say, a new report, a little bit of difference versus 11.17RX, depending on the fixed pack release. Selecting a source, the menus are just a little bit different, but otherwise properties page and the general accessibility of where things are have changed pretty much the same. And again, we want to keep to a consistent level of theming. So as we get new users rolled on or even new clients rolled on, we want this this training runway, this training curve, not only to be short, but super flat. We want people to be able to get in and navigate and actually get to use the solution as they had hoped and expected. We also recognize that some of these changes are going to require effort by our clients to invest in changing some training materials. And these changes that IBM makes to really, without regard to any of the solutions that are part of our analytical platform, do have an impact on training. So we do recognize that, and we appreciate you guys hanging in there with us as we do our best to not only innovate to have features that are important to the marketplace, but also have capabilities that allow you guys to make really good decisions without having to spend forever today on it. Okay, Marie, I'm going to cover a couple of things just as a general course of business, some features that have been in there a while. I'm not sure if anyone's using any of the customizations. And when I showed the accelerator catalog here, visualizations, I'll search for visualizations. I'll give this a second to come back. It usually takes a minute. Did I spell that right? We'll give that a second to think about it. But I've downloaded a whole bunch of custom visualizations, and those visualizations are available. I can upload those right into Cognos Analytics right from administration. And all the custom visuals then are made available to all users when they create dashboards. And I found them particularly useful, especially in an area that I'm going to show in a second for something that we're calling schematics. And think of schematics as a non-traditional way of mapping something that is non-geo-based, but still might have an X, Y, and Z coordinate system. So for example, mapping out seats on an airplane, or mapping out an area inside of a library for, let's say, social distancing, or mapping out an area inside of a classroom to maximize student performance based on just things that students might need if they need to sit closer to the front, or they may have special needs that they have, being able to map those out for capacity purposes, making sure that those facilitators have all of the resources that they need available to them. So I uploaded this thing, I'm going to upload something called an Airbus. So it's an airplane. So let's grab it. Airbus.zip, and this.
Looks like Jason, I can't hear you anymore. And the screen is frozen. All right, we're going to give 30 seconds. Maybe he dropped off and can drop back in. If not, yeah, he cut out for me a couple times, but it was slight, so I just let it go. So Brian, if you're there, I guess get ready. We might be on a few minutes early. So 1 moment. Okay. Brian has the next session. So it sounds like Jason is having some internet issues. So the next and last session is integrating budgeting and forecasting. Now, I know we didn't get to go through most of the 11.2 slide deck, so I will put up the Menti slide again, and I will take into account that it was only about 3/4 of a presentation. So just a second. And I'll give about 30 seconds for the votes. All right, thank you. I will stop sharing. And then Brian, you can come on whenever you want. It's integrate budgeting and forecasting with Cognos.
Yeah, can everybody hear me okay?
I can.
A minute here. Set up.
Yeah, you're coming through.
Okay, very good.
Okay, just a second. Sorry, I have to do some behind the scenes things since Jason isn't here to do them. So 1 moment again. Sorry, guys.
All right, and am I sharing?
Yes. Yeah, Paul, I can't hear anything either.
I'm not talking, so.
Oh, you're not talking. Well,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm all set to guys. Just getting my screen set. All right, so Marie, we're all set.
Yep, we are good to go.
Very good. All right. Well, yeah, thanks for having me, everyone. Brian Moore from PM Square here to talk about integrating budgeting and forecasting with Cognos Analytics. So, jumping right into it, I'm sure you've heard a thing or two about planning analytics, but we'll give that a brief bio here and give you the product comparison. So we have Cognos Analytics on the left, as you know, business intelligence and real-time data analytics. It connects to data sources real-time and feeds back that data. Originally from the Cognos Corporation, 40 plus years old. They were acquired by IBM in 2007 and rebranded in 2016. Cognos Corporation picked up Applix about 2007 as well. And Applix goes back 35 years and is a multi-dimensional modeling of OLAP cubes. You can think of it as a transformer on steroids. A multi-dimensional modeling, what does that mean? It means you can have 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30 dimensions, goes up to 250 with planning analytics. So very large modeling capabilities. So you can display your accounts, your time periods, organizations, regions, salespersons, customers, all sorts of different dimensions to give you a great slice and dice. It was acquired by Cognos, as mentioned, renamed as TM1, and then rebranded in 2016 as Planning Analytics. And that's when they reformatted the tool and added some user interfaces, which we'll take a look at today. And I'm sure folks that have seen PA see that it continues to grow together with Cognos Analytics. A lot of the same look and feel, same template, and some of the same features and usability as the product development continues. So hopefully PA is becoming a lot more easy to use for the CA folks, because some of the stuff you'll see today in terms of building dashboards is going to look very familiar. And then we'll point out some of the differences as well. So getting into the differences, CA being real-time business intelligence, connects to live data sources, whereas PA is a data repository. So in PA, you are importing the data and storing offline, so it's not real time. But depending on the speed of your data loads, you can get it close to real time. You can update every 5-10 minutes if you like. But usually it's common to refresh once or twice daily when you're doing a planning cycle, because you don't need up-to-the-minute information. CA is better at report bursting, pagination, pixel perfect reports, automated scheduling, and visualization options. All sorts of different colors, styles, fonts, charts, and graphs that you can do. So much better customization on the reporting front. And it also have the ability to customize with JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. So a lot more customization options in CA and the most comprehensive visualizations. Over on the PA side, we have multi-dimensional modeling. So we are able to build large models for large data sets. We have the capability of sparsity. So if we build a cube that is 1,000 elements by 10,000 elements by 1,000 elements and on down the line for several dimensions, and we have a several trillion cell cube, well, all it is storing is the cells that are populated. So it makes it very efficient at storing and performance versus your typical relational database management system. So we're able to create large models, but only store the data points that are actually populated. The write back capabilities, of course, that's why we're here to talk about it today, is that you can write back, and therefore it's a great tool for planning, budgeting, forecasting. And so we can use that in tandem with CA to generate our plans in PA and then have that fed over to CA for pixel perfect reporting. Also in PA, we have integrated Excel add-in. Fully integrated allows users to use the Excel tool that they're comfortable with. And it's not just a dump of the numbers into Excel, it's actually live linked to the data repository. So any changes that are made in the data repository refresh real time into the Excel add-in. And users can do their planning in Excel, and that data that they submit to the plan is read back to the data repository. How can PA complement your BI solution? So we have integrated planning and reporting, seamless transfer of data. So everybody's playing out of the same playbook. It's not just submitting a bunch of hand-cobbled Excel reports and then stitching them together. So everybody's actually submitting data to the common store. Therefore, it's a lot less error prone, and you can get greater amounts of your team involved so that it gives you a much better planning accuracy. It's not just the silo of the finance folks generating the plan for the whole organization. You can actually provide the web portal to folks in your lines of business all across the organization so that they can submit their numbers at a detailed level and have it all roll up to the common plan. Lower left, we have predictive forecasting, which we'll touch on in our demo. And that allows automated objective forecasts. So it's not just sticking a thumb in the air and kind of seeing which way the wind blows. You're actually utilizing historical data from your organization and time series and other algorithms to generate a numerical based predictive forecast. And with COVID behind us now, it makes it difficult to use 2020 data, but we do have the ability to block out 2020 and parts of 2021 so that we can trend on more distant historicals if we're going to start doing results that we did pre-COVID. That's nice to have as well. There's no third-party software needed. That's actually comes natively in PA, so it's a wizard that's easy to use and no extra software fees or add-ons to do that predictive. Multidimensional analysis, as we covered, is the flexibility to build large models with vast amounts of dimensions. So you can do slice and dice by any level of detail and granularity and metric that you have in your data sources. You can build massive cubes, and you have the ability to create hierarchies. So hierarchies are a big strength of PA over CA in that you can create various levels of roll-ups to roll up your data as needed in several different ways as well. So it's not, it doesn't just have to be one main roll-up. You can have alternate roll-ups for your reporting needs. And lastly, the ability to drill through. In PA, drill back to the source of your data. So if you had multiple general ledger systems that you're bringing together in PA, you'd be able to drill back into, say, Oracle and see what the transactions are surrounding balances in your report. Finally, we have consolidated financial reporting. So PA is a great tool to merge data sources, as I just mentioned. So if you're doing a merger and bringing your Oracle shop and you're merging with a company that does SAP, well, PA is a great way to get a consolidated set of books in a matter of weeks. Merging the two ERP systems is an 18-month effort, but PA can be a stopgap to get you a common set of books within weeks by just mapping the two chart of accounts together and then using PA to report that consolidated set of books. Likewise, currency translations. If you have entities all around the world with different currencies, they can all submit their results in local currency and then use PA and translation rates to get that into a USD or other reporting currency. And then on the Office of Finance side, your intercompany eliminations and adjustments can be very helpful in producing that final global consolidated report. Any questions so far? Are we doing questions? I was just arriving into the program here, so just want to check in.
Yep, we usually just do the questions in the chat, and I haven't seen anything come through, I don't think.
Sounds good.
Nope.
Quick note on CAM authentication. I believe CA, for the most part, uses CAM, Cognos Access Manager. PA leverages that as well. So most PA systems are actually running on Cognos Analytics for the purposes of security. So whenever users authenticate into PA, it actually does a lookup into CA to make sure the user is authenticated. Similar to Cognos, you can leverage groups and roles in PA and apply that security at a very granular level. So it's nice that the security is common for both tools. And so your current administrators would be very familiar in how to implement that and utilize that security and single sign-on as well. Last slide. Data modules for PA cubes. So in order to view PA data within Cognos Analytics, you need to set up your PA server as a data source. And then for each cube you want to view data, you have to set up a connection using manage data server connections, and we'll demo that. We have an example in our Smart Co system where we're hooking up the compensation cube so that we can use that data within CA. Without further ado, let's jump into a demo. Right, we have CA on the screen. Hopefully everybody's comfortable, and we'll get you a little uncomfortable over in PA in a little bit here. First thing we're going to do is go to Manage. Show you how you can go to Data Server Connections. And I'm going to look up the PA Smart Co is our Planning Analytics server. Over to Connections, Cubes. Here's where I would set up a new data source. So let's do that compensation cube. I've already set up the income statement cube and the revenue cube for other demos. So that's fairly simplistic there. It's just a one-time thing. See, my other sources are in here already, so we'll save that. It's out of there. Let's open up a fresh canvas here. I'm going to go ahead and bring in that, create a new dashboard. The dashboard will select a data source. For this one, I'm going to do the assets, PA integration, and income statement. And in my income statement, I'm going to do my default of years, and for accounts, we'll grab the FX expenses. Yes, good note, Jason. A measures dimension needs to be present in your PA. My total OPEX and my default, drag that onto the canvas. That will grab us total operating expenses for 3 years here. Go ahead and reverse the orientation there. Have to do that from the property screen. Fields. Start that over. Operating in default. All right, next I'm going to jump over to the PA screen, show you the numbers behind that for your 2019, 2020, and 2021. We have our total operating expenses. Go up to the total company full year. There we go. So for 2019, total operating, we have $1,234,000. It's the 1,234,000. PA side, go ahead and add some marketing expenses to 2021. Plug in 5 million. Side system's all locked up there. Better. So we get a refresh over on this side. Refreshing chart. That will give us the 5 million in 2021. So we should refresh to 12,000,006. Right. So we are passing data both ways. I'm going to cut ahead to a previously created dashboard here. And on this dashboard on the cross tab, we've gone ahead and broken out our regions. So we have 3 different regions of data showing the total operating expense by the 3 years. And we have a visualization as well. I'm sure you're all used to creating visualizations. So I have the ability to reorient the fields. Here as my colors, I have different levels of the Eastern organization and total operating expense on the length, as well as the years going across the x-axis there. So let's go ahead and populate some more data into the Florida region for 2021. PA planning screen back on where it's rewrite capability. Flip it over to Florida. Beef up the marketing budget in 2021. Call that 800,000. Back. I believe I have refresh set, so I should see some Florida data populating. Not that much, but a little bit of Florida data. So real-time updates as your planners are putting in numbers, you can have your CA refreshing per those changes. All right, questions so far? A lot of comments going back and forth. Anybody has anything to response?
Yeah, it looks like there were some questions, but Jason responded
Excellent.
to most of them. There was the last one. Do PA cubes have data files on the server like Transformer?
PA cubes are have their own file type, so it's a .cub cube file that's storing all this this data on the back end. And it's actually hosted in RAM, so the cube file stores the saved data, and the data is only saved on a scheduled interval. But real time, it's all held in RAM, so it's very RAM intensive depending on the system size. Largest customers in the world have servers, if you can believe it, of 13 terabytes of RAM. So it has billions and trillions of cells all suspended up in RAM and able to process very quickly. All right, going to the last part of the demo, I want to show you the predictive forecasting, which is about a year old now, and they keep making small improvements, but is working pretty well for a lot of folks. Really nice having that objective forecast capability and not relying on just a 5% increase from last year or just some human intervention and fudging of the numbers. So here we have the SmartCo revenue planning cube, and so typically historically we would have just gone through cell by cell and done some changes in the cells, or maybe done some data spreads linearly or built on adding from different areas. For predictive, I'm going to Click my brain icon. That gets us over to a predictive forecast. And I see I have 2019 and 2020 has been populated and 2021 is blank. What I do is go ahead and highlight the row I want to forecast for. I'm going to do 4G phones. And we'll click the wizard. Gives us a pop-up and says what periods you want to forecast. If I wanted to go advanced, I could ignore certain historical periods. But for this demo, we'll just do all of them. And I have the option to preview or to forecast. Forecast commits the data to the cube. Preview just gives you a graphical representation of what it might look like. This is a pretty decent forecast here, where it gives us the trend line and gives us also an envelope of possible variances. So likely to fall, 95% confidence that it's going to fall within that range, and gives you the most likely path forward, and a median prediction accuracy. Let's go ahead and commit that. And so we'll do my forecast. Going to see that my 2021 cells are now populated for the 4G phones. I pop open my dashboard, that cube open. And on the next refresh, we'll see 2021 get populated. Go. A real-time refresh updates in Cognos Analytics per the changes being made by the planners over in P. That went a little faster than expected, but that is our product demo. This thing I have to show you is just a comparison chart of the CA versus PA features. So I will throw that on screen and then handle any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian.
My
Personally,
pleasure.
I have never seen this before, the integration part. So there was, I think, one outstanding question. Are there any built-in integrations with other financial suites like Dynamics GP? I don't know what Dynamics GP is.
Yeah. Planning Analytics is compatible with any ODBC data source. So you would be able to hook up Dynamics and read the data in. As far as the real-time lookup that we're showing here, I don't have too much experience in that regard in terms of having that real-time response like we're seeing now. But in terms of bringing data as a data source from Dynamics, yes, we definitely have that covered. So say your organization has Oracle and SAP and Great Plains and Dynamics and some Excel spreadsheets of data. PA is a great tool to cobble them all together and get a consolidated set of books.
Bree, this is Jason. We do, IBM has a pre-built integration with Oracle for sure, possibly SAP. And we can take that as I can take that as a homework item to get back to the group.
And is the question that you'd be able to see reporting in Microsoft in Dynamics or in Power BI similar to how we're seeing it in Cognos Analytics, or was the question of sending Dynamics data into Planning Analytics? Yeah,
I think it's the latter. Is okay. Other can I take PA and click it into a source and have the integration be a supported configuration?
Yeah, that's definite. Anything ODBC compliant.
All right, well, I think looks like there's no more questions coming in, so thank you for your presentation and your time. I'm going to post the feedback for the session. Give me just a second. It'll be the same code again on Menti. And we'll do 30 seconds. Okay, I have one final poll question at the end, just about the session as a whole. And then, since Jason is back now, I'm gonna ask him to spend the last 5 to 10 minutes, if people want to stay on, just to finish out his 11.2 presentation. So let me post the last poll question.
Okay.
Again, this is about the whole session.
I'll sign off. Thanks, everybody. And feel free to reach out with any further questions or anything I can help with.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so Jason, go ahead and finish out your presentation, if you remember where you stopped.
Well, I remember where I stopped. I just don't know where you guys
Where we
stopped.
stopped.
Where you stopped hearing me, yeah. So tell me if you saw this dashboard.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back to the accelerator.
Oh, I think we lost him again. Okay, well, second time failed also. So maybe he can do like a separate recording outside of the session, and then we can like tag that at the end. Okay, well, that's the end of the session though. So thanks again to IBM and PM Square for all their work in planning and preparing and presenting. I really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for participating in the chat and using the feedback. You should be hearing from me probably February of next year regarding the next session and when that is and what topics will be included. So thanks everyone. We'll be, I guess, ending about 10 minutes early. Hey, Jason.
Hey, it's one of those days. I guess.
So you can decide which, I mean, nobody's left. We've all left. I stayed on because Joel made it sound like the recording wouldn't work if you closed or if I closed out before you were here. So, I don't know what you need to do for that. But I guess, I don't know if you want to like record a session or if we want to, just tack it on to something else. I don't know what you want to do for that. I mean, we got the majority of it.
Probably
right?
for next time. Yeah, probably for next time.
Yeah.
I might cover a few specialized topics like themes and extensions, custom visualizations, that kind of thing.
Okay.
That stuff can be pretty cool to work with, and it's really easy to do. A lot of people aren't using it or don't even know about it, and it's just really easy to do. So I could cover that, or one of my colleagues can cover that in an upcoming session.
Okay. What else was I gonna say?
Hey guys, it's Joel. Hi,
Hey.
great job today. Working with the technical hiccups, it's not fun, but it was good. And we can, if you can get a recording of this, Jason, like the whole thing, our marketing can cut all the